What's going on, everyone? My name's Eric, and today on the channel I'm going to be addressing a question that I get asked so many times throughout all the different setups that I have shared with you all on the channel so far. I'm going to be talking about how I get the action super low on guitar. And this is going to be like a general setup tutorial video, so then you can actually apply these different techniques that I use to get your action super duper low. Usually when I showcase a guitar after it's all set up and everything, I usually talk about how the action is super low. So as you can see, the action is kind of high on this guitar here. So I'm going to show you a few different tips and tricks to get your action super low and also still have a good amount of tone as well, so then your guitar is actually playing way easier than it might be already. Without further ado, let's get right into this. Now, to getting the action as low as you possibly can on the guitar, there's a few different things that go into it. It's more than just taking the bridge down on the guitar. That is a good part of it as well. The bridge height, the pickup height, and the actual truss rod adjustment and the neck relief are all going to be factoring into all of that. Those are going to be a factor on your guitar regardless of what bridge it has. I'm just using a Tune-O-Matic bridge here because that is what's on the guitar that we are working on. But you can apply these to other guitars with different kinds of bridges as well. So after you restring the guitar, the first thing you want to check is the neck relief and the action. Easiest thing to do to check your action and your neck relief is putting your finger at the first fret and at the last fret as well. It might be a little bit hard to see on camera, but the neck is bowed. I'm going to get some close-up pictures of this as well, so then you can actually see what I am talking about. Now, looking in between the first and the last frets that are pushed down on the guitar, you might be able to see some space between the string and the frets, which is good, and you might be able to see some spots between those sections as well that have a bit more space than others. Another thing that you can do to check the relief of your neck is put a capo on the first fret or fret it down in some way and hold it down, and then fret down the last fret of your guitar as well. Throw a guitar pick in the second fret and move it through the frets. There's a good amount of relief here, maybe from around frets 9 to 12 and just past that. So the neck is bowing right around here, so what we want to do is adjust the truss rod so then the neck is actually going up. And the neck can bow in the opposite direction as well for other different factors, but if it is bowing either way and if it is not super straight, then you will have to adjust the truss rod on the guitar. I'm going to put a diagram on screen that shows you which way to adjust your truss rod. Now, if you don't feel comfortable adjusting a truss rod on your own, take the guitar in and maybe ask the person who's fixing your guitar if you can learn from them as well. So then you can try some of these repairs on your own and have a bit more confidence than you did before. Now, some people online will say that you need to have a little bit of neck relief when you are setting up your guitar, so just a tiny bit of a bow, and that's totally fine as well. I like to have my necks as straight as possible because that feels the best to me when I'm playing the guitar. Some people might think that's kind of crazy, but it works for me, and that's how I can get my action super duper low on the guitars with a truss rod adjustment. And another thing that you can do to check if your neck is straight or not, you can actually use the strings of your guitar as your reference point. Technically, your strings should be strung up straight on the guitar. There shouldn't be any bends or anything in the string. So if the neck looks straight and it's straight in relation to the guitar strings, then you are in a good position to have super low action on your guitar. Now, the next thing to do is adjust the truss rod to get the neck straight before you even start touching the bridge and working down there. What you want to do when you're adjusting the truss rod is have all of the strings loose. Some people say that you can get away with only having a few strings loose. I like to take all of my strings and make them as loose as possible before they actually fall out of the tuner, just so there is no tension on the neck and the neck can move freely when you adjust it. Now, there are a few different ways to adjusting the truss rod. Some of your truss rods will have your standard Allen wrench here. Other truss rods will need to be adjusted using a tool that looks like this. This is similar to what you would find on a Gibson or, let's say, a Martin guitar. And obviously the spoke wheel that is at the bottom of the neck on some guitars, those ones can be adjusted by simply inserting an Allen wrench that fits into one of the holes there and adjusting it like that. The truss rods that are up here and access at the nut can sometimes get messed up by inserting the wrong Allen wrench or the wrong size of tool like this. So now if you mess up your truss rod by accident, that is going to be an extremely expensive repair, and that's something that you really don't want to get into. So I'm going to reiterate, if you are not comfortable adjusting your truss rod, then don't do it. But otherwise, bring it in if you are keen on learning and learn from someone who is more experienced than you. When you're adjusting your truss rod, you only want to make small turns. You don't want to do these giant sweeping turns, because that can also damage the fingerboard or the truss rod on the guitar as well, and then wait in between your passes for then the neck to actually settle out. And then I'm going to tune the guitar up and see if I need to adjust the neck anymore or if I need to adjust the action at the bridge. So as you can see here, the neck is actually really straight. There's pretty well no relief on the neck as well. There's just a slight amount, but it's not as bad as it was before. And now at this point, you can start adjusting your action at the bridge. Now, if you're adjusting the bridge at full tension with the strings tuned up and everything like that, that's fine as long as you are adjusting the action lower If you're adjusting the action higher, I really don't recommend that. Now your guitar may go out of tune with every adjustment that you make on it, so make sure you are tuning the guitar and actually setting it up for the tuning that you want it to actually be in. Something else you want to be mindful of when you're adjusting the action of your guitar is the actual height of the pickup. If you are having a hard time getting your action low, it could be because the pickup is not low enough. Mess around with your pickup height as well, because sometimes the strings will hit the pickup if the pickup is too high, and that will also not allow you to get your action as low as possible on the guitar. Some pickups will sound better if they are actually lower in the guitar body, so they are further away from the string. Other pickups might sound good, just as you're seeing this EMG right here. All right, now the action is all set up and everything, and as you can see, it is sitting real nice and low, just as I like to have it on my guitars. There's the bass side. Yeah, it's looking real good. And I do want to mention that there are so many different ways to set up your guitar, and there's so many different tools and things like that to actually check the action and the relief and everything like that. A lot of guys use feeler gauges. A lot of people will go down to the millimeter of how high their string is sitting off of the fret or in relation to the pickups and things like that. People will throw picks under their strings, as I showed you in the video as well, to determine whether the string is too high or too low and things like that. And some players set up their guitars based on feel entirely. They won't use a feeler gauge or things like that. And they won't use a tool like a feeler gauge or a guitar pick to measure the distance between the string and the fret, or the string and the pickup, or the actual general relief in the neck. They'll just go from feel. And at the end of the day, whatever works for you is up to you, and as long as the guitar feels good to you and it sounds good, you don't have any dead spots on the frets or anything like that, that's all that you want at the end of the day. Now, something to consider when you are adjusting your action super low, or you're adjusting your action in general, you need to consider how you actually play the guitar. If you are someone who plays the guitar really hard, you pick hard, you fret really hard, you might not want to consider low action, because you might run into things like excessive fret buzz because you are over picking because the action is so much lower. When you lower the action on your guitar so much, you don't have to play the guitar as hard to produce the note. If you're picking super light and you're focused on lead playing and things like that, you might be able to get away with super low action and not playing as hard on the guitar. Personally, for me, I like my actions super low because I don't want the guitar to actually be a chore when I play it. I want it to be enjoyable, and I want it to be comfy when I play it. There are times where I enjoy medium action as well, and there are times where maybe that is called for, especially in the studio, when you want the notes to maybe sound a little bit thicker and fuller, where you're actually going to be setting up your guitar differently. But for the person who's going to be playing guitar every day, maybe you're on stage or something like that, you're in a full-time touring band or everything, and maybe this is the guitar that you have to live with as your daily driver, for example, you want the guitar to be as comfortable as possible, and that's how I set my guitars, as comfy as possible for me and for the person that I am setting up guitars for. So really consider that before you start adjusting the action on the guitar. Low action isn't for everyone, high action isn't for everyone, but try this out and see what you think of it. And that's gonna do it for today's video. Let me know in the comments below if you like these kinds of videos with these setup tutorials and things like that. I like sharing them, and if you do like it, I will be making more of these videos for you all. And if you've learned something from this video as well, let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video as well, consider giving it a thumbs up, and if you are new here, consider subscribing. I have tons more videos like this, lots of setup tutorials, lots of guitar restorations and guitar demos and things like that. Also lots of covers, and also tons of Pantera and Dimebag content as well. Thanks for checking this video out, and I'll see you next time.